Vanessa Rowe was once Wilmore High's most beloved teacher, and Evan Clarke was just a quiet, struggling student, until a digital scandal turned their lives into a national nightmare. But as investigators dug deeper, what seemed like a shocking betrayal revealed a terrifying truth. The real crime wasn't what Vanessa did, but what was done to her. Vanessa Rowe was the kind of teacher most schools dreamed of hiring. At just 32, she had already earned a reputation for turning underperforming students into star pupils. When she joined Wilmore High School, parents and faculty alike considered it a major win. She decorated her classroom with books, inspirational quotes, and quirky posters that made students feel comfortable and engaged. Her teaching style was different, interactive, creative, and personal. She remembered every student's name within the first week and always offered extra help, often outside school hours. To many, she wasn't just a teacher, she was a mentor, a role model, even a friend. But behind the polished exterior, there were small cracks no one noticed. Vanessa often blurred professional lines, especially with students who struggled emotionally or academically. She would text them motivational messages late at night, invite them to private study sessions at her home, and even drive them home if their parents couldn't. Most people overlooked this because her intentions seemed good. She wasn't like other teachers. She cared. One student in particular seemed to get a lot of her attention. 16-year-old Evan Clarke was shy, soft-spoken, and often overlooked by his peers. Vanessa saw potential in him and started working with him closely. She said he reminded her of herself at that age. He began staying after class more often, and soon his grades improved drastically. Teachers and parents praised the turnaround, calling it a success story. Vanessa seemed proud of the impact she was having on him. Still, some things didn't quite add up. Students whispered about how close the two had gotten. Evan was often seen leaving her classroom well after everyone else. He stopped sitting with his friends at lunch and seemed to always be texting someone during class. Then came the rumors. A student claimed they saw Evan get into Vanessa's car late at night. Another said they saw photos of her on his phone, pictures that weren't meant to be shared. Initially, the whispers were brushed off as typical high school gossip. Vanessa had too much support. Too many glowing reviews for anyone to believe she could be doing anything wrong. But that changed when Evan A.'s mother checked his tablet one evening while he was in the shower. She expected to see messages with friends or gaming apps, not intimate messages from someone saved in his contacts as V. Some of the texts were vague but suggestive. Others were unmistakably inappropriate. There were also photos. Selfies taken in a mirror, some appearing to be inside a classroom. Her face wasn't always visible, but there were details that couldn't be ignored. A necklace Vanessa often wore, a tattoo on her wrist, even a glimpse of the classroom mural she was known for painting herself. The mother didn't hesitate. She went straight to the school board the next morning. Within 24 hours, Vanessa Rowe was pulled from her class, placed on administrative leave, and questioned by authorities. News spread fast. Headlines exploded. To the public, the rising star teacher had turned into a scandalous figure overnight, but the full truth hadn't come out yet, and when it did, nothing would be the same. The investigation into Vanessa Rowe's conduct moved swiftly. The school district, eager to distance itself from scandal, suspended her without pay while police began their review. Investigators obtained a search warrant for Evan Clarke's electronic devices, and what they uncovered sent shockwaves through the community. Hundreds of messages between him and Vanessa spanned several months. Some were harmless, reminders about assignments or encouraging words, but others grew more personal, even flirtatious. A few messages hinted at late-night meetings, shared secrets, and private jokes that no teacher should have with a student. There were photos as well, some of Evan in what appeared to be her home, others in her car. A video clip surfaced, short but enough to raise serious red flags. It was taken in a classroom after hours, showing Vanessa sitting beside Evan, leaning in close, whispering something while laughing. Although it didn't show anything explicitly illegal, the context painted a troubling picture. Investigators believed it was just the tip of the iceberg. Vanessa was arrested 2 days later and charged with multiple counts of misconduct involving a minor. She was released on bail but required to surrender her passport and avoid contact with any students. The media dubbed her the Freak Teacher, a name that stuck fast and spread across tabloids and news outlets. The coverage was relentless, focusing on her appearance, the nature of the messages, and every detail of her past. Former students were interviewed. Some defended her, insisting she was nothing but supportive and kind. Others hinted that she had always been too friendly, though they had never imagined something like this. What stunned everyone most was Vanessa's silence. She didn't issue a statement, didn't appear on camera, and didn't defend herself publicly. Instead, she quietly deleted all her social media accounts and disappeared from public view. People began speculating. Some said she was hiding out to avoid further humiliation. Others believed she was preparing a legal counterattack. That speculation turned into fear when Vanessa failed to appear for her next court date. Her lawyer claimed he hadn't heard from her in 2 days. Police found her apartment empty. Her car was missing, and her phone had been powered off. Surveillance footage later showed her withdrawing large amounts of cash from 3 separate ATMs across town. A toll camera placed her vehicle on the highway, heading west out of state. Just like that, the woman once trusted with guiding teenagers through literature and life lessons became a fugitive. National interest surged. News channels ran 24-hour segments. Commentators debated whether she was guilty or the victim of a media witch hunt. Meanwhile, Evan's story began to change. He told detectives he'd been manipulated, that Vanessa groomed him, made him feel special, then threatened him to stay quiet. His statements became more detailed, more emotional. But something about the precision of his recollections raised doubts for at least one detective on the case. The timing, the phrasing, even the wording in his written statement felt rehearsed. Still, with Vanessa on the run and a mountain of digital evidence against her, few people were asking questions. The public had made up its mind. But the truth was about to take a shocking new turn. Weeks passed with no trace of Vanessa Rowe. Law enforcement agencies in multiple states were notified, her face broadcast on news channels and crime forums. Her disappearance only deepened the public's belief in her guilt. Online communities speculated that she had fled the country, assumed a new identity, or worse, been helped by a secret lover. Every lead turned cold, until a toll booth camera in New Mexico finally picked up her car. It was registered under her name, but the driver wore a wig and sunglasses. A partial facial recognition match confirmed it was Vanessa. The hunt narrowed. Detectives located her staying in a cheap motel under an alias. She was arrested without resistance, and her appearance startled the officers. Gone was the polished teacher in bright clothes and makeup. In her place was a tired, pale woman with sunken eyes and the weight of weeks in hiding on her shoulders. But what shocked investigators more than her look was what they found in her motel room. She had been documenting everything: handwritten journals, USB drives, and a small box labeled Proof. Inside were printed screenshots, transcripts, and notes about her interactions with Clarke and several other students. Vanessa claimed the messages between her and Evan had been manipulated, that she had only ever sent academic support and encouragement. She wrote that Evan had threatened her, showing her altered photos and threatening to send them to the school if she didn't let him continue the late-night tutoring sessions. Her journals contained dates and times she claimed to have noticed strange behavior from him, including one chilling note. He smiled when he showed me the fake messages. He said no one would ever believe me over him. The detectives were skeptical, but logged everything as evidence. Her attorney immediately filed a motion to re-examine the digital files submitted in the initial case. A few days later, an envelope arrived anonymously at the local police department. Inside was a flash drive labeled simply, "Play Me." What it contained shifted the direction of the entire case. The flash drive held multiple files, including a video secretly recorded in a school hallway. It showed a group of students, including Evan Clarke and 3 others, laughing as they edited a photo on a computer. Vanessa's face was superimposed onto another person's body. The boys commented on how realistic it looked and joked about how it would ruin her life. One even said, "She'll never teach again after this." Suddenly, what seemed like a cut-and-dry case of an inappropriate teacher became a question of conspiracy, manipulation, and digital forgery. Investigators began looking deeper into the technology behind the messages and images. The metadata on Evan's tablet didn't match the timestamps of the supposed conversations. Some photos had signs of compression and editing, and several classmates admitted, off the record, that Evan had boasted about getting even with Vanessa after receiving a low grade in her class. Public opinion, once so harsh and one-sided, began to shift. The story was no longer about a teacher abusing power. It was about a digital setup, a blurred line between fact and fabrication, and a woman's life unraveling under the weight of lies she couldn't disprove. Until now. With the contents of the flash drive under scrutiny, the case against Vanessa Rowe began to unravel. Forensic analysts were brought in to verify the authenticity of the digital materials used to charge her. What they uncovered was deeply troubling. The images and messages used as evidence had inconsistencies in their file structures, showing signs of being copied, edited, and manipulated using AI software designed to replicate text patterns and facial likenesses. The timestamps didn't align with phone records. Some conversations were logged during times Vanessa was verifiably in class, or logged into school systems under her official account. Investigators took a closer look at Evan Clarke's digital footprint. On his laptop, a hidden folder revealed dozens of modified images and video files, all with Vanessa's face awkwardly placed over others. More damning was the presence of a deepfake application, complete with user guides and previous test files. Among these was a partially rendered clip titled "Freak Teach Final." It was the same clip used by the prosecution to charge her, only now it was proven to be a fabrication. Evan had used an older school video as the base and layered her face onto it. Even more shocking was the discovery of a private group chat between Evan and 3 other students. The messages revealed a calculated plan to discredit Vanessa. In one thread, Evan suggested they teach her a lesson after she failed him on a midterm paper. Another student bragged that he could make the videos look so real no one would doubt it. They even discussed planting evidence and reporting her anonymously. Authorities quickly brought in the other students for questioning. 2 cracked under pressure, admitting to their roles in the setup. One of them confessed that Evan was the ringleader, fueled by rage after being called out for plagiarism by Vanessa. Her decision to report him had not only cost him a scholarship recommendation, but also earned him suspension. The scheme to ruin her wasn't spontaneous. It was premeditated, rehearsed, and chillingly efficient. Meanwhile, Vanessa remained in custody, emotionally shattered but more composed now that the truth had started surfacing. Her attorney filed for immediate dismissal of all criminal charges and requested an official investigation into the digital harassment and defamation she endured. The district attorney, under mounting pressure, dropped the most serious charges and opened a new case focused on Evan and his co-conspirators. Public sentiment shifted dramatically. News outlets that once portrayed Vanessa as a predator now scrambled to revise their narratives. The nickname "Freak Teacher" was replaced with headlines about deepfake abuse and digital victimization. Vanessa became a symbol of a growing problem: how easy it had become to destroy someone's life with forged digital content. But the damage had already been done. Vanessa's name had been dragged through the mud, her career shattered, her mental health tested beyond limits. She remained at the center of a legal storm, not as a perpetrator but as the victim of a conspiracy that had exposed a terrifying new frontier in digital crime. And though the charges were falling apart, her fight was far from over. As Vanessa Rowe sat in court for what was expected to be her final hearing, the atmosphere was tense. The gallery was packed. Reporters, parents, former students, and curious onlookers who had followed the scandal from the start. For months, her face had been plastered across headlines, paired with labels that would haunt anyone: predator, manipulator, freak. But now, the narrative had changed. The courtroom wasn't just witnessing the end of a legal battle, it was witnessing the exposure of a modern cautionary tale. The judge reviewed the findings from the digital forensic experts, confirming that the majority of the incriminating evidence against Vanessa had been either falsified or manipulated using advanced editing tools. The texts, photos, and videos that once seemed undeniable had all been forged by students who had used technology as a weapon. The court acknowledged that while Vanessa had crossed professional boundaries by allowing students into her personal life, there was no credible evidence of criminal behavior. Instead, the real culprits were brought forward. Evan Clarke, now 17, was charged as an adult for fabricating evidence, cyber harassment, defamation, and conspiracy to commit fraud. His 3 co-conspirators faced similar charges in juvenile court. Their plan, built on vengeance and powered by technology, had almost succeeded in destroying a person's life. The justice system had to confront not just the individual crimes, but the wider implications of a world where truth could be manufactured and lives could be dismantled with a few keystrokes. Vanessa was cleared of all criminal charges, but she didn't leave the courtroom with celebration. There was no victory lap. Her teaching license remained suspended pending a review by the state board. Her reputation, though somewhat repaired, was still scarred. The internet never forgets. Screenshots, rumors, and archived news stories would remain accessible forever. Her name would always be connected to the scandal, even if she had been proven innocent. But Vanessa wasn't ready to disappear quietly. Weeks after the final ruling, she released a statement through her attorney, urging schools and lawmakers to recognize the dangers of deepfake technology and to implement digital literacy education for both students and staff. She began speaking at conferences, not as a teacher, but as an advocate for ethical tech use and the protection of professionals from digital weaponization. Her story, once tabloid fodder, evolved into a case study used in seminars and legal courses on digital fraud. The scandal at Wilmore High had exposed cracks not just in a system, but in a society that often believes the worst before verifying the facts. It proved how easy it was to take a respected figure and reduce them to a headline, a meme, a villain. And while Vanessa Rowe would never fully return to the life she had before, she had reclaimed one thing: the truth. In a world filled with digital shadows, her survival wasn't just about clearing her name. It was about shining a light on just how dark things could get when the truth is buried under lies, crafted by those with the tools, the motive, and no sense of consequence.